If you don't believe this way, if you don't understand it, if it hasn't been revealed to you, that's okay. We don't hate you. We're not mad at you. If you still do everything that you do on Christmas, it's okay. We're not condemning you. You're not going to hell. Okay? We just want you to understand from a different perspective than what we've been taught and what we've been accommodated. Because we are called to be peculiar people, separated unto God. The Lord told his people, I want you to be separated unto me. Do not celebrate all of the pagan feasts that your neighbors do. So with that, I'm going to leave my sister Sienna to come and...
That look better?
That should be. Okay.
Okay. Ephesians 5:11 says, take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. So as Robert was just saying, this is not intended to condemn anybody, to judge anybody, to look down on anyone. Please don't let the enemy make anybody here feel embarrassed or shameful or not spiritual or anything. Don't let the enemy do that to you, okay? Because we're all on a journey. We all know different things at different times. And for some of us, this is not new material. But for some, it is new. And so, fair warning for those with smaller children in the room, in case some of the children may not know about things that happen this time of the year and a certain person supposedly, this time of year. Spoiler alert, they're going to find out tonight. If you don't want them to hear that, you may want to move them to another room. So there we go. So that was a spoiler alert. Also, we have a trigger warning. So, they always say, oh, trigger warning on TV. Well, this is an accountability warning because any of us is only accountable for what we know. And we're all learning, we're all on a journey. And what you haven't known before today, you're not accountable. That changes tonight. What you do with it from this moment on is what you're accountable for. So again, no shame, no embarrassment, no judgment, no criticism, condemnation from anybody in this room to anybody else. So don't let the enemy make you feel any kind of certain way about those things. And we might slay some sacred cows tonight, but don't get mad at me. I'm just the messenger. Okay. Am I going slow enough that you can interpret? Taking breaths long enough? Okay. Okay. Pagan origins of Christmas. So the history, first of all, what we all call Christmas today is a mixture. I'll go back to the first one. Sorry, is an amalgamation, a mixture of ancient celebrations centering around the winter solstice. That's this time of year. I think tomorrow might be the first day of winter, tomorrow or Sunday. The winter solstice and a similarly timed Roman festival called Saturnalia. Okay, festival to Saturn. We'll see about that. The winter solstice was celebrated by Germanic peoples at the time that they call, in their language, Yule. So a lot of us know about Y-U-L-E, for us Americans anyway. I don't know how y'all do it in Mexico, but Yuletide, Yule season, that's where it comes from. Common themes of this celebration centered around light, fire, and feasting. It's easy to see where the Yule log came from. It was supposed to be a really big log that would burn for the entire 12 days. Now, are we all singing the 12 Days of Christmas song? And a partridge in a pear tree, right? So, yeah, it was supposed to burn throughout the entire 12 days. There's going to be a lot of little themes that I'll kind of try to slow down and go, oh, that's where that probably came from. So tradition from this ancient holiday often included tributes to the Norse god Thor, and in that celebration, the construction of a Yule goat. You see the one on the left? He's made out of straw. Makes you also think about the scapegoat, Azazel, in the Old Testament. Goat themes. Do we all recognize the one on the right? Baphomet. So it's interesting, it was a goat made of straw, as goats were said to pull Thor's chariot. So a picture of Thor being pulled by goats. But what does that make us think of? Santa and his reindeer? In some cases, sacrifices in these were offered in these feasts, either to gods, to other supernatural beings like elves, Santa's elves, or to the dead. For some, the season of Yule was a sort of Norse Day of the Dead, with the god Odin, also called Yule, being honored as a god of the dead. So that's one of the festivals. The Roman festival of Saturnalia had similar themes of wild and uninhibited behaviors. It kicked off with a religious ceremony in Rome in the temple of Saturn, followed by a free public banquet for all. It was characterized as a day when strict social norms were suspended for the days of the festival, on the right. But it just kind of made me go, right? Things that make you go, So, like I said, I could not find an exact connection, but just kind of made me wonder. So during Saturnalia, another tradition was that each household would appoint a mock king, or the lord of misrule, who ruled over everyone at the festival and gave silly orders like performing embarrassing acts, and you kind of had to do it, like dancing naked, or other acts that would not normally be tolerated. So these celebrations were centered on self-indulgence without any moral accountability. So kind of like during that time, you can do whatever. Kind of like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Mardi Gras.
Yeah, Mardi Gras. Yeah. And, when we think about the word festival, and for the Hispanics in the room, Carnival, what does carne stand for? Anybody?
Meat.
Flesh, meat, flesh. Carnival, flesh, festival. Festival is feastival, but when we think about these,
Oh wow. Okay.
Carnival, when we go to a carnival, what are we really? We have a different idea of it, at least in English, but when you realize the Latin, carne, meat, flesh. All right. So we did what the Lord of Misrule would tell you to do, and you kind of had to do it, but it would be forgotten as soon as the festival was over. Next slide. In Roman homes, wax candles or lamps were placed on altars as offerings to the god Saturn. See it there on the left. These terracotta lamps had separate nozzles for 6 wicks and was crescent-shaped, probably representing the moon goddess Luna. Okay, and it's a crescent shape, so we think about the crescent moon, right? Luna, or even the sun god itself, named Sol. And again, knowing a little bit of Spanish, moon is Luna, sun is Sol. So whatever was done by the light of these candles or lamps was usually not spoken about, as the idea was Do whatever you will, and this lamp will remain silent. Next slide. Do whatever you want. Does that remind anybody of something? Where else have we heard, do what thou wilt? This theme is a core tenet of modern Satanism, especially as fashioned by the late Anton LaVey. Crowley didn't make this up. He borrowed it from ancient paganism. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. So can you see that there's a connection between these pagan festivals and indulging the flesh, doing whatever you want with no moral accountability, and then after the festival, presumably people went back to acting civil. Isn't there a movie about like a certain time when you could do whatever you want? Is that The Purge or something? That's what I'm thinking. Is it The Purge? I haven't seen it, so I don't know, but I remember one of my students telling me that a couple of years ago. But so anyway, just something to think about. So thinking of Saturn, next slide, please. So Saturn was worshipped as a god of agriculture. He's the one on the left. God of agriculture, and was also known by the Greeks as Kronos and the Egyptians as Horus. He's the one on the right, the falcon-headed Egyptian god. Saturn is not mentioned by these names in the scriptures, but in Amos 5:26, scripture refers to Sakuth and Chiron when warning the Israelites not to worship these deities. Also in Acts 7:43, Stephen's speech to the Jewish leaders before he was then martyred, quoted from Amos, but used different names, the names of Moloch and Remphan for Sakuth and Chiron. Remphan was known to be a reference to the star god Kronos. Next slide. You see the one on the left? Can y'all see that it says Star of Remphan, not the Star of David? We take a lot of these things for granted. We call that the Star of David. That was around long before Israel adopted that as their sign. And it's the Star of Saturn, a pagan god, one of the lesser gods in the divine council. And you see that the Pope's hat has it on his little hat there. And that scripture from Acts where Stephen is saying there, yes, you took up the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god Remphan, Saturn, figures which you made to worship them. Let's see. Okay, so let's talk about some of the symbology that at least here in America we associate with Christmas. So obviously the most well-known and beloved symbol of Christmas is the Christmas tree. So to ancient pagan cultures, decorating with evergreen trees and wreaths symbolized the death and rebirth of the sun, the earth, and other various gods who ruled over the different seasons. Waiting for the interpreter there. Namely, gods such as, a bunch of weird names here. You may not want to try to interpret those, but namely gods such as Osiris, Tammuz, who is mentioned in Scripture, Adonis, Dionysus, Persephone, and Ishtar. For those of us that read any Greek or Roman myths, these names might sound familiar. These and other gods were said to spend part of the year in the underworld and then to raise to life again on the surface in the spring. So there's this cycle of dying and being reborn. And there's a lot of gods in the Greek and Roman pantheons that were dying and rising gods. In Ezekiel 8:14 through 17, it speaks of women mourning for the god Tammuz at the entrance of the house of the Lord. And God speaks of this as idolatry and an abomination. In Jeremiah 10, God says to the people of Israel, quote, "Do not learn the ways of the nations, for the practices of the people are worthless. They cut a tree out of the forest. They adorn it with silver and gold." That convicted me a lot of years ago. Deuteronomy 12 contains God's command to Israel saying, "Do not worship the Lord your God in the same way these pagan peoples worship their gods." God specifically charged Israel not to adopt the customs of the people around them, because God detests these practices, and he instructed them with very specific ways that they should worship Yahweh. God desires pure worship in spirit and truth. So the symbols of a conical tree and a circular wreath together is a reference to the Egyptian gods, deities of Osiris and his wife Isis. Again, for those of us that like to read, those of us that are book nerds, we might go, "Oh yeah, I've heard of Osiris and Isis." Weird story. We're about to get into it. Around the world, this theme of Osiris's missing 14th piece is depicted by an obelisk. And the womb of Isis, which then birthed the Egyptian god Horus, is represented as a dome near to the obelisk. So obelisks themselves symbolize divine power, fertility, and the link between heaven and earth. Go back again for a second. Let's just keep it there for just a moment. So in the concepts of sacred space and sacred geometry, symbols like these are a way of establishing a stronghold for whatever god it is dedicated to. Freemasons employ this in architecture as a way of hiding their intentions in plain sight. So that's right there in Vatican City, St. Peter's Square. Next slide. Where's that, y'all? Washington Monument and the Capitol. It's not an accident that Washington, D.C. is, the streets are set out the way that it is, and that the Pentagon has 5 sides. The Freemasons know all this. To us, those that are uninitiated, we don't know all these sacred symbols, but they put it everywhere. Next slide.
What did you say the dome was a symbol of? I didn't get it down.
The dome specifically of a womb, the womb of Isis. So looky here, obelisks everywhere. Church steeples. Is it any wonder that our churches are in such trouble? Next slide, please. Now, y'all don't get mad at me. Disney. Oh, is the connection, is it failing there? So, yeah, look at all the obelisks there. I grew up going to Disney. We went almost every summer because I lived in Florida. But they're communicating something. And with what we've been learning about Disney these last 10 years or more, I guess we shouldn't be surprised. Leave it there for just a moment. So it was believed that Osiris, the god Osiris, was killed by his jealous brother Set, and that his body was dismembered into 14 pieces and scattered. His wife, who was also his sister, Isis, retrieved all but one of the pieces. We'll handle this delicately. Let's just say this piece is absolutely necessary if she plans to get pregnant. Okay? So she fashioned a new piece out of gold performed ritual sex magic, and conceived and birthed the falcon-headed god Horus to inherit his father's kingly throne, or earthly kingdom, while Osiris then became the god of the underworld. So on the left there is a depiction of Osiris and his wife Isis. And then on the right is dad in the middle, mom on the side, and you see the falcon-headed Horus. So all these things are connected, right? I hope it's coming together for you. So when we display a conical tree and a circular wreath together, we are unwittingly hearkening back to these deities and their story, while claiming that we associate it with Jesus. By the way, talking about the obelisks and the church steeples and stuff, that'll also go perhaps for pyramids, although pyramids are also said to be sacred mountains, maybe not the same as an obelisk, but sacred spaces. And perhaps the Tower of Babel was going to be something like that. Just more connections. So by the way, who else is said to have their birthday on December 25th? Next slide. Mithras, the Persian god of light and truth. Osiris and Horus that we've just been talking about. Krishna, the Hindu god of love and compassion. Zoroaster for the Zoroastrians. And that was in 1000 BC, by the way, Zoroaster. Buddha in 563 BC. We know that BC means before Christ, right? Okay. Hercules, 800 BC. Tammuz, that we've mentioned, in 400 BC. Adonis, 200 BC. And Dionysus, also known as Bacchus, BC. So these practices clearly predate the advent of Jesus 2,000 years ago. So how can we say it originated with a baby in a manger in Bethlehem? Don't get mad at me. Just the messenger, okay? I didn't like it when God told me. Y'all have to eat the same pie. I'm sorry. So, Santa Claus. Originally, there was Odin of Norse mythology. And
some soft spots there.
Oh, I know. Sorry.
It's good.
Okay. Yep. So there was Odin of Norse mythology and Krampus from Austrian and German folklore. So let's talk about Odin. Odin was thought to be a bearded old man who brought gifts to well-behaved children, riding his 8-legged horse named Sleipnir. How many reindeer pull Santa's sleigh? 8. Children would fill their boots with straw and carrots and leave them by the door for Sleipnir to feed on. This is probably where we get the tradition of Christmas stockings and leaving cookies for Santa. Next slide. Krampus. Didn't we just see a goat man figure a little while ago? Krampus was thought to be a half-goat, half-demon figure who punished naughty children by dragging them to the underworld. And what do we say about Santa Claus? How does the song go? He knows when you are sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good. So be good for goodness sake.
Wow.
Because if you've been bad, you get to meet Krampus. So the festival of Bacchanalia, that's Dionysus, Bacchus by different names, to the Greeks and the Jews. Greeks and the Romans, excuse me. Festival of Bacchanalia to celebrate the birth of the Greek god Dionysus on the 25th included the belief that the sun goddess Bewi rode in a sleigh pulled by a white reindeer. Are we noticing some similar themes here? Thor was pulled by goats. Sleipnir had 8 legs. A white reindeer. The Greeks celebrated this season with drunkenness. Wild orgies performed under sprigs of mistletoe. Kissing under the mistletoe? Well, that's pretty tame considering that they were having orgies under the mistletoe. And by lighting fires to honor their dead. Let's look at some more symbolism here. The color red is believed to represent chaos and untamed forces. Hold it right there. Chaos, untamed forces, life force, fertility, and sexual energy, and is often associated with the Egyptian deity Set, whom we mentioned earlier that killed Osiris and cut him into 14 pieces. In rituals, witches burn candles for power, including red candles, right? We talked about the mistletoe. We've talked about the Christmas tree and the wreath. Also, holly is often associated with this time. Beautiful trees. Anybody got a holly tree? They're gorgeous, especially the ones that are variegated, have a little white lining in them. Beautiful. I'd love to have one. But the wood from a holly tree is used for wands. Anybody Harry Potter people know, watch the movies or read the books? Good, don't. But if you have, you know that Harry's wand was made of holly wood.
Hollywood.
Thank you. Thank you for playing along. Yes. So the wands were used to command spirits and is thought to attract helpful fairies. Don't want none of those in my yard. What city is the center of American entertainment industry? Class? Hollywood. That's by design. That is not an accident. And when we hear about the horrendous things that happen to child stars in Hollywood, yeah, it's a lot darker than we think. And it has been going on a lot longer than we realize. Because Hollywood was, yeah, think about, played Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. What's her name? What's the actress's name? It keeps going on. Judy Garland, thank you. Judy Garland. That movie was made in the 30s, 39, I think. When she was one of the first child stars. Shirley Temple was too. And if you've ever watched a documentary about Judy Garland's life and how she was absolutely wrecked, and she died young, drugs and alcohol, and I can only imagine, looking down what we see going on with children in Hollywood now, it must have been going on way back then. Melissa Gilbert of Little House on the Prairie, she talks about that stuff. Corey Feldman has been coming out talking about the horrendous parties for people who are attracted to minors. Trying to keep it delicate here, but anyway, getting off track some, but just so you know, it's all really corrupt. Okay. So the bearded jolly old man in a red suit that we know today is a mix of all these beings. Krampus, Thor, Odin, with a little bit of St. Nicholas sprinkled in. Okay. Yeah, he was a saint, but that's just kind of putting a Christian tag on something that was there long before. So it was actually Coca-Cola that dressed him in his now familiar image as an advertising campaign in the 1930s. Gave him the red suit, Made him seem like a jolly old fellow drinking Coca-Cola. Great way to sell a product, and it worked. Retailers all adopted this figure as a way to sell their products and commercialize an ancient pagan holiday. Did you know that celebrating Christmas was actually banned by Christians in England and the U.S. back in the 1600s? It was illegal. What? Christmas? Banned by Christians? How can that be? Well, thank you. The Puritans made it a criminal offense as they considered it to be a pagan ritual and even banned the traditional foods and decorations associated with it. Early Christians did not celebrate Christmas. So now that we know all of this, what are we to conclude? Next one. Can we really keep believing that the Catholic Church's absorption of these pagan festivals somehow baptizes the practices by attaching Christian themes to it? Think of it this way. Let's say you're newly married and your spouse's birthday is in March, but your ex-girlfriend or boyfriend's birthday is in August. So instead of celebrating your new spouse's birthday in March, you wait till August. Because that's when you've always done it. That's when you've always celebrated birthday in the past. Furthermore, your spouse loves chocolate pie for their favorite dessert, but you make him or her oatmeal cookies because that was your ex's favorite. Because that's the way we've always done it. How did that affect your relationship with your spouse? It got quiet in here. Listen, he told it to me, I have to share it with you, okay? I didn't like it when I heard it either. And it's not even so much what God thinks about it because his mercy and grace are infinite. But what do the enemy and his minions think about you as a Christian celebrating their holidays with them? They don't care that you intend to worship Jesus in this holiday. They only care that you participate, even ignorantly, because it feeds the darkness in the atmosphere and it gives more power to the principalities and powers in heavenly places. And that's really the crux of it. Because we all know, everybody in here, our intentions are good, okay? We know, Jesus is the reason and all that kind of thing. And we know that our hearts were as right as we knew how to make them for that stuff, okay? So again, no condemnation or judgment. But when we celebrate pagan holidays, even if we attach a Christian reason to it, but we still celebrate it in the same way that the pagans do it, we're adding to the powers that they're worshiping. And they love it that we're helping to add to that even unwittingly. So when we participate, however innocently, in pagan festivals like Halloween, Christmas, and Easter, yes, don't throw eggs at me. Easter is named after the goddess Ishtar. Sorry. We are opening doors to the enemy that allow them access to our lives. Now, do we want to be normal churchgoers? Or do we want to be true disciples on the front lines of warfare? Now, obviously the occult didn't create evergreen trees, okay? Or holly, or the circle, or the color red, okay? It's not inherently wrong to gather with family and friends to celebrate a special event or to give gifts. We gather every Friday and Saturday night, right? So that none of that stuff is, inherently wrong. But we must be careful about blindly following traditions, that goes for us in the church, without knowing the origins and the meanings behind them. So just talking about my own journey of forsaking Christmas. It's been a process, and probably everybody in here could say the same thing. It's been a process. Years ago, first of all, I knew it would be wrong to tell my kids that Santa was real, knowing that they'd eventually find out that that was a lie, because I was also going to be telling them that Jesus is real. And what would that do to my credibility? So let's just think about that one for a minute. Yes, honey, Santa is real, and he's going to bring you presents and stuff. And oh yeah, Jesus is real too, and he's going to do magical things like heal you and deliver you and make miracles happen and all that stuff too. So I never made Santa Claus part of my Christmas once I had kids to raise. And I used to call it Jesusmas. You know, when people say Merry Christmas, and Merry Jesusmas, you know, because again, my heart was to point to Jesus because I still thought that that was, okay. And I always said Jesus is the reason for the season, you know, and that kind of thing. I stopped doing Christmas trees years ago, but I still decorated the rest of the house with the usual kind of things. No Santa Claus, but, you know, other stuff. Hannah and I stopped exchanging Christmas gifts several years ago, but we still give these little modest things, and we just, because we're just weird in our family, we just call it, it's the end of the year and I still love you gifts. Yeah, you made it another year. I haven't killed you yet, you know, but there's always a new opportunity, you know. So, all parents, we can relate to that, right? So it's the end of the year, I still love you gift. Honestly, the hardest part for me in giving all this up is the Christmas music. Because first of all, you can't go anywhere without hearing it, right? It's everywhere. Especially all the great Christmas music done by contemporary Christian artists. I still have CDs, y'all. I play them. I'm old, okay? But I have all these great Christmas, you know, I've got some Third Day and some Sailor and these Christmas albums and Casting Crowns and stuff. Great Christmas music, man. I don't listen to those anymore. And this time of year, even the Christian radio stations are playing Christmas music. So that's when I pop in one of my non-Christmas Christian CDs and listen to that this time of year. But the music is the hardest part to get away from. You can't go anywhere without that stuff playing it, you know. And the bell ringers are out there, you know, and you hear the Christmas music and you're just like, I need to go home and give my ears a bath, you know. But so now I decorate with winter stuff. Okay, this is just me, and God might change it next year. I don't know. If God tells me to do something different, I will. I have a wreath on my door, but it's around there. It's there all year long, and I put different flowers in it for the different seasons, you know. So right now it's decorated with like snowflakes and pine cones and stuff like that. I decorate the house with snowflakes, ice skates, snowmen, but nothing that says Merry Christmas. Nothing with the little Pileus hat falling over. Not saying you can't have one of those hats on your head, you know, for warming your, you know, ears or whatever, but just, you know, this is a no judgment zone, okay? Just telling you kind of what I do. I don't buy wrapping paper. I don't do Black Friday shopping sprees because you'd be crazy. Our family has a nice quiet meal at home. We watch movies and we play board games. Each of us should take this knowledge that you're learning today, go to God and ask Him what He wants you to do. Because especially if you have kids, you got to kind of be like, well, what do I do so that the kids don't hate me and hate Jesus? You know, because I really had to face that with Hannah. You know, because the stricter I got with my practices and what I allowed or didn't allow in the house, the more she was kind of like, you know, I don't know if I want this Jesus thing because Jesus is, you know, a buzzkill. He doesn't want to do anything fun. You know, so you might have to find alternative ways of still making it fun. So none of us can tell you what to do. Ask God, because it might be different for each one of us. So none of us here will judge or condemn you, but we might remind you about opening spiritual doors. So ask yourself if it's worth compromising with the enemy. Be prepared to get pushback from family, friends, and coworkers. Company Christmas parties, company gift exchanges, you know, well, the cousins all, you know, do a gift exchange. You got to pull somebody's name out of the hat and give a gift. And if you don't participate, then now you're the bad guy. again, none of us can tell you what to do. You need to ask God what to do in those situations, but you're going to get pushback. I guarantee it. You can still gather with loved ones on your days off from work during this time. You can have a special meal with everyone's favorite foods. You can reflect on the year that's passing and seek God's direction for your family in the year to come. Some Christians choose to celebrate Hanukkah or the Feast of Lights. That's kind of cool. Make it a time of family. Make it a time of fun, especially if you have kids. Don't make them dread it. Like, oh, we never get to do anything fun at Christmas, If you really want to celebrate Jesus' birthday, maybe you can have a different day of the year. Since we've already seen it was not the 25th and he was not the first one assigned that birthday arbitrarily. You could celebrate another day of the year, and you could read the Advent story from Scripture together, so your kids know the story. Your kids will be fine. They really will, because you're making your home a holy place. So especially if you make it a time of relating to each other and make it fun in some other way, they're going to be fine. I know a Christian family that takes all 6 of their kids on a foreign mission trip every Christmas instead of giving gifts. They spend the money they would have spent on gifts, and they go on a foreign missions trip. That's really cool. I love that. I love that idea. So find ways to keep it holy, unblemished by pagan rituals, and to celebrate your family's commitment to the Lord. Now, any comments, questions? And I'm not an expert on anything, but I can try. Comments or questions? I know there's at least 2 people in the room who have said something to me about God convicting them about the pagan stuff surrounding Christmas. Do either of these 2 people want to say anything?
Loud.
Nice and loud.
So I want to ask you a question. I will ask you that. Did you figure out the day why the Jesus' birthday is on that day? Did you figure out the reason why?
I have heard that Jesus' birthday might actually, some scholars think it might actually have been September 11th.
Some people say March or April.
Or March or April, right. But supposedly, one of the clues I've heard is that when you're reading the Advent story, that the shepherds were out in the fields at night, and that you can't do that in the winter. So it would have been probably in the fall or the spring. But the reason that December 25th was chosen by the Catholic Church, who goes in and conquers, because Rome conquers everybody, right? They just go in and wipe out everything, and now the people that are left alive in those conquered lands are just told, you're Catholic now. The Pope is your boss, and you have to do what he says, and they just tacked Christian stuff onto it. So, yes, sir.
The date came from the Emperor Constantine.
Yes, Constantine picked that.
It was actually also the birthday of the Caesar at that time. And he had 3 different sun-worshipping kinds of religion, and so he put them all together.
Right.
And there's also, to throw some things in there that you don't necessarily throw out the baby with the bathwater, the Jews celebrate Hanukkah.
Mm-hmm.
That was the celebration of the miracle of the temple light.
Second temple,
also,
yeah.
They also talk about the fall festivals as part of the return of Jesus. But in that fall festival, like I think it's the Feast of Tabernacles, when you do calculation that the inception of Mary may have happened during Hanukkah in September. And you look at the normal gestation period, and it comes out into September or the Feast of Tabernacles. So in God's calendar, that, and then of course, a lot of the Roman Catholics picked up a lot of all of the pagan worship comes from Babylon, and they just picked it up and put different symbols on it, and that kind of blended into the
Right.
Catholic Church when it was there, because that was, but that's where the date came from.
Exactly.
And, of course, Satan loves to orchestrate
Right.
what he does to
Right.
reflect from Jesus. But, if you're celebrating Jesus, just understand that, you're celebrating the light of the world. You're celebrating
Mm-hmm.
that time. And
Yeah.
I think is a good.
Yeah, I like the idea of celebrating a lot of the Jewish feasts throughout the year because there's so much symbolism in those that all point to Jesus. Passover is amazing how much of Jesus is in the Passover. So that's one way that we could do it. But if you're going to celebrate Jesus' birthday, just don't do it on December 25th, please, because it's going to, because again, you're adding to that atmosphere, and you may very well be opening doors. Did you have another comment or question about?
Not really. I was just making sure it was on the same page. I
Mhm.
had to make sure it was on the same page. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we had an ex-witch in the room, they'd probably tell us a whole lot more about all of that kind of thing. Paula, was there something that because you were saying on the phone that that you also were realizing that there's so much paganism centered around this holiday?
There are sometimes in your Christian walk where there are things that you have to analyze about what you're doing, why you do it,
Mm-hmm.
the purpose, the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think what really got my attention, and it has gotten my attention years prior, but for some reason this year was a little bit different for me because as I go about, to the malls, etc., talking to people, you're looking at the news and you see all of a sudden everybody is glorifying themselves. Nobody's talking about Jesus. Nobody's giving honor and glory unto him at all. Nobody's even recognizing that there was a virgin birth. Nobody. In fact, it's gotten worse to the point to where I was telling Sam, I says, I'm to the point now to where I don't want to of this world. We're not in this world.
Excuse me.
We're not of this world. We're in this world. And in order to be separate, you have to be separated from what is not of God.
Mm-hmm.
People, everything. You have to be separated.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking to myself, I said, God, it really bothered me to the point to where I can't relate to anybody. You say happy holidays. I say Merry Christmas. The offense is there. But then God was showing me, remind them.
There you
Because
go.
my people have forgotten.
That's right.
Remind them
Mm-hmm.
of what this is all about.
Or at least what the Christians wanted to.
That
Yes.
he was born. I don't know when he was born,
Mm-hmm.
but he was born.
Yeah.
And he rose and he died.
That's
He
exactly
died and he
right.
rose. So all this other stuff, that's the way it is.
Right.
But it really bothered me because everybody's giving me. Kids, gimme. I don't even think they even understand the magnitude of his birth
Mm-hmm.
to the point to where I really pray for the conviction of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Because it's something that it really hit me this year. You go from glory to glory when you're dealing with the Lord. You go from glory to glory.
We're always learning, always
God
growing.
takes these layers off of you.
Yeah.
Every time. Okay,